Nothing could have prepared Sack Fitzpatrick for what was coming. His monthly trip to the small-town general store to buy supplies should have been fast and easy. After all, he was doing the usual. First, get food, beer, kerosene, and a few other stuff. Then, a quick stop at the library to pick up a couple of books. Finally, jump back into his car, head to the cabin 200 miles away somewhere in the middle of the desert, and enjoy the next 30 days, alone. But, not even after he told the old clerk what happened the night before. The clerk turned around and said, "If you think that was bad luck, wait until you get out of here, sonny. Bad luck comes in threes." He swirled the last piece of tobacco in his mouth and spit it on the floor. I could write a book about bad luck, and dropped the flour into the grocery bag. "You're taking it too personally. Let it ride, son, let it ride." "Okay, this is it." Sack picked up the bag and turned toward the door. "Oh, wait." The clerk turned to the cabinet behind him. "The librarian left these books for you. She's on vacation, so the library's closed. Did you ask her for these?" "Yup." Sack nodded. "Is that all you need, son?" Sack nodded again. "Yeah. This will last me till next time. Don't take it that way, sonny. It happens to everybody. Oh, don't forget your change." He laid $1.90 on the counter. "That's all that's left out of 500. Sack took the change and stuffed it in his "See you next month," the old man called as Sack stomped toward the door. He slumped back into his rocking chair. Same time, same place. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. All the same, never learn. Sack slammed the trunk door, slid into the driver's seat and headed home. Halfway there, the chilling wind slipped its icy fingers under Sack's shirt, sending a shiver across his shoulders. He looked at the greying sky and the rolling clouds building to the east. Strange for a midsummer afternoon in the middle of the desert. The car radio crackled and hissed as he rolled the dial over different stations, finding the same interference on every one. He hit the dashboard several times, as if that would make it work. It didn't. Annoyed, Sack turned the radio off and concentrated on the dirt road that spread out before him like a giant yellow ocean. "Thanks God I'm close to home. I need to find out what the heck that strange noise under the cabin was, or I'll have another sleepless night," he said aloud, as he often did when reasoning with himself. "Maybe the ghosts of the past are coming to haunt me." He smiled at that absurd idea. When he arrived at his cabin, one so old no one remembered when it was built, he stepped out of the car and looked around for a few seconds. "Why do I feel like something is not the same around here?" Hairs rose on the back of Sack's neck as he let his gaze drift around the room but saw nothing out of place. He shrugged and forced his uneasy feeling to the back of his mind before bringing in a satchel and the groceries. Looking through his purchases, his brow creased. "Damn, this $500 for a month's supply of food is eating up all my army disability check. I got to do something about it." Sack stepped back outside to see that he had not escaped the weather that chased him across the desert floor. The temperature dropped fast, the wind picked up speed, and dark clouds moved swiftly towards the cabin. The small steel ballet doors hanging from the hook on the front porch kept within easy reach because of the many rabbits in the area that were easy targets and a supplement to his diet, spun around in the rising wind like a nervous wind chime. Fearing the wind would blow them off the hook, he grabbed them and stuffed them into his jeans pocket. At 6 feet 2 inches, with well-developed muscles, bushy blonde hair, and dark brown eyes, Sack was a renegade who preferred the solitude of the desert to the troubles of friendship. Years ago, he had received an honorable discharge from the army and started to work in his father's architectural company. 26 he married Ailey, his college sweetheart, and although they experienced the normal problems found in any marriage, they lived fairly happily until he went back to the army and an accident turned his life upside down. On the morning of his 36th birthday, he closed the door to the studio, jumped in his car, and disappeared. Sack set the remaining groceries on the table and prepared a pot of coffee. Easing himself into the leather chair, rummaging around in the satchel, he pulled out several more books. All the King's Men, A Passage to India. I don't think so. Oh, here we go, Adrift in the City. This is my book for today. He nodded and leaned back. Much better. Sack took a deep breath as the aroma of the coffee brewing in the kitchen wafted into the room. A smile pulled at the corners of his mouth. There's nothing like real Brazilian coffee, and hurried into the kitchen to pour himself a cup. As he turned back to his book, the shutters on the kitchen window slammed shut. He placed his cup down on the worktop and tried to push the shutters open, but the wind was too strong. Sack grabbed his parka and stepped onto the porch that looked over the vast reaches of the desert. A burst of wind ripped the parka from his hand. whipping it into the air like a kite. As he watched the parka sail into the sky, he saw a black wall of clouds that seemed to roll across the desert floor. He backed up against the front wall of the cabin and watched a great swirling mass of debris ride the wind as it tumbled toward him. Sack stood, mesmerized, unable to drag his gaze away from the towering clouds that blocked the sun. Desert snakes crawled out of their holes and slithered towards the cabin. Sack detested snakes, especially the venomous yellow ones, and he could see a score of them coming his way. Sack's hand trembled as he tapped on the anemometer. 60 miles per hour and getting stronger. He looked back at the darkening skies. Man, this is strange. An unaccustomed and surreal feeling of fear came over Sack and paralyzed him. His gaze fixed on the horde of slithering snakes, but chills ran up his spine when he saw a gooey, bloody blob, looking much like liquid tar, coming from under the cloud. He watched this unearthly, hideous goo wash over the reptiles and devour them, expanding as it did so. Focusing on the ghastly substance, he saw demons dancing inside. Am I dreaming? He heard a scream, but no sound left his mouth. This is no dream, his frantic mind shouted, but the approaching darkness blotted out his thoughts. The roar of the noise hurt his ears and he tried to put his hands over them, to lift the veil. The wind tore at the porch roof, and the cracking sound of broken timbers caused him to force one foot in front of the other, and move into the open doorway as columns splintered and the porch wrenched away from the house. As he barely dropped inside the cabin, the porch flew upward into a whirlpool of debris and the cabin roof screamed and groaned, protesting the continuing onslaught. The sun almost disappeared behind the clouds and darkness began to surround Sack when the first earthquake hit. It split the ground, opening a deep, dark hole that he feared would engulf the cabin. Large parts of the desert tumbled into the gaping maw and had not stopped falling when the second quake hit. The ground parted, and what remained of the cabin teetered on the edge of the precipice. As Sack tried to jam himself in the doorway to keep from tumbling into the abyss, he lost his balance and slid across the cabin floor, stopping when he hit the foul wall. He saw one of the windows and staggered toward it as the third quake caused the house to collapse around him. The shattered parts of the cabin lay strewn over the precipice, heavy beams, doors and windows, sections of ripped-apart flooring. With the walls now down, he once again saw the snakes, those not already absorbed by the creeping ooze rolling towards Sack. They slithered beneath the cabin debris, but several slipped into the abyss. Others managed to secure themselves by coiling around the shattered cabin fragments, and still others slithered closer to Sack. A fourth tremor struck, and what was left from the cabin floor beneath his feet fell away as he jumped, and wrapped his arms around the beam. He looked down, but all he could see was a seemingly bottomless black pit. But, looking up, a large beam protruded through a broken window. If I could just reach it. Stretching his left arm, he could only just touch the underside of the beam with the tips of his fingers. There was a jolt, and the beam shifted slightly towards him. He tried again, and this time he almost grabbed it. With the despair of one fighting for his life, he thrust himself up, managed to get hold of the target and was able to drag himself finally onto the beam. Another tremor flipped the beam vertically and sent him down to the end, balancing in midair. He was not alone. A snake had come down with him and was curled around his legs. Another one coiled at the top of a large beam. Sack hung on for dear life, the feel of the reptile against his skin freezing him in terror. After one more shock and the opposite end of the beam moved closer to the border of the crevasse. Sack slid a couple of inches down, forcing his legs to loosen their grasp on the beam, and the snake fell down into the hole. Another snake wrapped around the beam and blocked his escape route. As he inched his way toward the snake, it froze. From his back pocket, he pulled the steel beledoras and holding on with his legs in one arm, he twirled the small balls in the other hand. Just as the snake thrust its head to strike, he hurled the weapon. The beledoras wound around the snake, neatly beheading it, and its body dropped down into the darkness. Sack paused to catch his breath before climbing the beam. Splinters jabbed into his skin and blood ran down his arms as he climbed to the end of the beam and reached the edge of the chasm. There, he extended his arm and searched the area frantically for something to grab onto. His hand found the handle of the old heavy entrance door lying flat on top of the pile of debris, and it seemed to be heavy enough to hold his weight. He grabbed on with all his will and pulled himself up. His weight shifted the door towards the hole, and the beam he was still on started slipping. No, he screamed. Stay where you are. Horrified, he felt it slip from his grasp and disappear into the pit. With one hand holding onto the door handle, and the other trying to find anything stable, his body swayed back and forth with the wind. His side view caught several birds coming his way, unusually large birds. With much effort, he turned his head to take a better look, and his eyes widened, anticipating what could happen next. With unknown strength, he rocked his body until one leg perched over the edge of the pit. Applying whatever force he had left, pulled himself over the edge and rolled on the ground away from the gorge. He lay on his back and pulled splinters from his hands, breathing heavily, and without taking his eyes off the birds flying towards him. His heart beat rapidly, and he forced himself into a sitting position to look at the large birds flying toward him. What the? Sack scrambled to his feet, looking for a place to hide. Nothing but ruins remained of the cabin. The gooey mass still rolled across the desert floor, much closer now. He ran to a nearby pile of splintered wood and slid under the rubble. The sound of heavy wings beating against the air grew louder, and he prayed they would fly past. The first bird landed close to his hide away. Through the ruin, he saw the birds claws and drew in a quick breath. Judging by the size of the foot, this thing must be several times my height. As he watched, a second bird landed, and a third, and he could hear many more wings beating as the entire flock neared. At the same time, the leading edge of the gooey mass reached the site, and the demons inside jumped to the ground. With lightning speed, they spread over the site and climbed onto the birds' claws and legs, disappearing into their feathers, and the birds screamed with pain. A large shriek forced the birds to stop and tense, their gaze darting about the area. At the sound of a second shriek, the birds attacked their aggressors. Beaks and claws flashed, and wings beat at the demons. As the huge birds jumped about, a wing swept Sack's shelter into the abyss. He fell toward the darkness and felt a force pulling at him. And then, there was silence.